Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Your magical kiss will take me just so far. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Don't leave me like this, dangling from a star. You set me all aflame and it's so pleasing. It sure would be a shame if you were only teasing. So my love, before I go, turn the lights way down low and talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Don McKeag Show. Can you believe less than a week and September is gone? We are here on Thursday nights, 6 to 7, and I thought I'd give it because I forget lots of times. On Comcast, Channel 13, and on Verizon Fios, Channel 43, you can see the show or tell your friends to watch it if this is an inconvenient hour, which it is for many. It's supper time or they're watching the national news. But this program will be shown Monday at 11 p.m., Tuesday at 9 in the morning, Wednesday at 1 p.m., and then live, of course, next Thursday. The other thing is you can get our shows. This is our 41st, right, Kenny? Kenny Bukes is my partner in crime here, and we, of course, are a call-in should you care to share your comments on my comments or your own. But we are on YouTube, and you can get all of those shows on YouTube. I start the show off always with a quote that I find extremely important in today's precarious situation in this country. We are in real danger of imploding with the tremendous pressures from the far side, the left, the people who continue to damage this country in so many subtle and not so subtle ways, while at the same time enlisting more and more of our young people because they are controlling our communications. Even our religions, our churches now have become infiltrated with a liberal bent that basically goes against the precepts, the concepts, the beliefs our founding fathers had when this country was founded almost 250 years ago. It's by Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, the devoted priest from Germany who saw the corruption, saw the absolute breaking of the rules of Jesus Christ for which they were supposed to be representative. This is not to lambaste the Catholic religion. This is strictly to point out facts regarding the leadership of the Catholic Church and of the Pope and the Vatican back in the 1500s. This Martin Luther delivered this quote in 1523. It comes like this. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when you must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. Of course, there was a huge upheaval. Martin Luther was excommunicated, and ultimately the Protestant religion resulted from his confrontation of the Catholic Church. Now, I find this, of course, most pertinent in the fact that the Pope is here visiting. I believe in Catholicism. I was excited when I first read of and heard and saw Pope Francis. But like so many times in this latter part of my life, I have been once again disappointed in the direction of leadership and in what I think priorities that just indicate this infiltration of the left, of the liberal establishment that comes under the guise of kinder, nicer, more inclusive, more speaking for the masses, and less of the conservative side, which I believe still emanates from the Founding Fathers and the original Catholic Church doctrine. We have a world that is in a mess, economically, spiritually. We have the threat of war in the Middle East, continual, and now even greater because we have a president who has decided it's a good idea to let Iran, a self-proclaimed enemy of the United States and of Israel, the only democratic stronghold, the only basic believer in democracy and in real human rights. We are now going to arm a country that wants, and has publicly stated for years, that they want to annihilate, along with the rest of the Middle East, they want to annihilate Jerusalem, Israel. We have a Jewish population in this United States that isn't the slightest bit outraged about it, I guess. They don't say anything about it. They control a lot of the media. I don't understand it. I guess they don't remember the Holocaust. I guess they don't remember how the Nazis treated their own, the Jews in Germany and Europe. I can't fathom it, except that it's the invasion of the political philosophy of New World. And we have former American presidents that believe in that. But we have a media that has now taken over. And to hear the priorities of this Pope, who I still want to admire, but I find dismally disassociated with the real problems of this world. Publicly, and the press, of course, being liberal-oriented and anti-U.S. because they want confrontation, even if they don't mean what they say. They want reactions from people like me and others to create stories. They don't care about facts, and they don't care about the truth. We know there is climate change. No one denies that. Anyone with a 6th grade education that's had any exposure to geology or science knows that millions and billions of years, we have geologists who know this, that this planet has undergone ice ages and desert-like conditions and huge fires and the wiping out of the dinosaurs and everything else. No one disputes that. But when you say global warming and couple it and blame the people that are on here, I don't care how many people are on here. It is the arrogance of mankind, period. There's the island of, I believe it's Bikini, like the swimsuit. It's either Bikini or Bimini, and I believe it's Bikini. They dropped, it was used as a bomb testing ground back in the 40s and 50s and even maybe before. I don't know how many atomic bombs, then also other bombs dropped on. They moved all of the residents off the island. They tried everything they could to test everything they wanted to. Wildlife was killed, of course, or left. Fish around the area were killed. 25 years later, the island is now inhabited. Well, it's now, this is probably 30 or more years, but people were allowed to move back. The wildlife returned. Did mankind make that happen? No. Nature did. We had the oil spill. I think it was Buzzards Bay or Falmouth there. All hell broke loose with the media. There were birds killed. Yes, the oil slick. Oil is a natural product, however. The company was vilified. Hess, I think it was. I don't think it was ExxonMobil. Do you know, Kenny? I can't remember. It doesn't really matter because it was ExxonMobil. So, of course, they were vilified, fined millions and millions of dollars, which, of course, was only passed on to you and me in our heating oil, in our gasoline. We'll show them, the government tells you. But there isn't, and individuals that had properties on the water that were damaged were paid exorbitant sums. Of course, the oil is natural. The beach cleaned itself. There was cleaning done by the companies, but it would have ultimately cleaned itself. That's fact. Now, this stupid government we got running it, the environmentalists go and mess around with some abandoned mines, and I forget the name of the Angora River or something out in the western part of the country, gets polluted. The water's gone, quality of water. People have died. There's been 7 or 8 people die, all because these government officials and government experts messed around with the mines that had been shut down and ended up polluting the river, killing fish, ruining the incomes of so many people, and it disappeared in 3 days in the news. And is the government being vilified for it? No way. So now we have a pope come here with tremendous influence over the large Catholic population, and he's taking the sides of global warming that blames you and me. You can't burn your leaves. Now, the ozone layer, again, years ago it's been known, the hole in the ozone or whatever, it filled itself in. I don't know, evidently it wasn't important that it healed to a degree. I don't deny that we pollute and that we should not be spewing things, but for an immediate quality of air, like in inner cities and all, those factories and other that were cleaned up, that's absolutely correct. That's a direct influence on people's lungs and health. But in the big scheme that global warming is our fault is what people like me and others who are sick to death of these people who know better, using their scientific data because they get grant money. That's why. Just like the press. Good news is no good. It doesn't sell papers and it doesn't get people turning on television. And now they've infiltrated the church. And with the Pope, today he cleaned it up. So some of the conservative, the realists, the Catholics that I believe in, got fed up hearing it too. He wasn't speaking for them. Softening on abortion, softening on gay marriage. If you don't like the rules of the church or the rules of this country, leave. We're into this mess where minority positions, one person's offended, and boom, things change for that person or that group. Donald Trump is popular for one reason, because he's confronting this absolutely out of control rule by minorities, by the Democratic Party. Period. The Democratic Liberal Party that should have to be now called the Democratic Socialist Party. Government employees making more money than the private sector with four times the benefits. The benefits were supposed to be high for government employees so that salaries could be kept substantially lower than the private sector, because that's how tax income allows a society to do well. That's how. But socialists don't want to hear that. Government employees, they're as greedy as anybody else. And I'm not sticking up for the corporate mentality and the corporate exorbitant salaries. By the way, Kenny, I almost forgot this. Some basketball player, I mean, this is how bad it's got. And I keep saying this. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that are regulars, and we hear from you regulars, but maybe it just makes you feel better, because I don't. A basketball player for, I believe, the... not the Los Angeles Lakers, but is it the Clippers that are also from Los Angeles?
They're on the coast, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I believe his name is Smith. Joe Smith or something like that. Doesn't matter.
I can Google it and get the information.
Well, it doesn't matter. Because it's the story, the true story, by the way. Now, the media... and the liberals, nobody, I love these liberal Democrat nitwits that, you know, they'd pay a pitcher for the Red Sox or they'd pay him $50 billion if it meant they could win. I mean, it's crazy. This guy, Smith, basketball player, has been making $8 million for 4 years. He had to take a cut in pay this year to 6.2.
That's not a big cut.
Yeah. They interviewed him, Kenny. This is the truth. Look it up. Last week, they interview him. How's he taking the cut? Straight face, looks into the camera and said, well, you know, I have a family, but they understand, and we're going to tighten our belts, and we'll get through this somehow.
Huh?
Dead serious. 6.2 million.
Outrageous.
Now, did you read about this in the paper?
No, I didn't.
Did you read this in the sports page, ladies and gentlemen?
You got to be kidding me, Donnie.
But Mitt Romney was running for president, and all they did was harangue about how much money he had. Too much money. The Kennedys, when they ran for president, nobody made their money an issue. The Rockefellers, the Bushes. Don't think the Bushes don't have millions.
Well, didn't they go after you when you were running for down on the Cape? Didn't they say
when I ran for state rep? Oh, they pointed out how much money we'd
multimillionaire or something.
Yeah. Oh, they gave. Yeah. Interesting though, but you know, I'm the nutcase. But imagine this guy, honest in a straight face, says 6.2. He and his family will do their best.
I know you're not lying.
Nobody says a word in this stupid country run by Democrats.
I know you're not lying.
Let me add to this. I had to drive up. I'm from Weymouth, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't do my usual spiel for those who are new to this lunatic asylum program. They let me out every Thursday. What time did I get out?
I call you every day to make sure that you're out on Thursdays, yes.
Because, of course, everything I say doesn't make a bit of sense, and all I am is an angry Irish guy that, you know, wishes he was still a millionaire.
Depends who you ask, though, Donnie.
Yeah.
Depends.
Doesn't matter. I could care less.
I know that.
But I had to drive up to Weymouth. I didn't have to. I met some really dear friends from the old baseball days up in Weymouth. Now, I don't go up to Boston very often. I don't know if you do. But the road was terrible. It was 9, and it was not the early morning rush hour, okay? It was 9:30, I guess. Quarter of 9.
Still a bad commute at quarter of 9.
And it backs up at that marsh field. You know, you get by the marsh field and all hell. Now, again, common sense and connecting the dots in Massachusetts and every other Democrat-run liberal state doesn't ever happen. They don't connect the dots because the dots might lead somewhere that would allow the voter and the people to care and say, wait a minute, I don't want this. Okay. Do you remember the Big Dig?
Oh, very well.
I don't know how many of you remember the Big Dig. And our now Secretary of State, remember he was senator then, said it's the greatest deal you could have. It's a great deal. Now they were projecting, well, it started in the millions, then it became to $2 billion. $2 billion, ladies and gentlemen. Think about billion. How many zeros? You know what it cost when it was over?
Oh, it was,
$40 billion.
yeah, quadrupled.
Ladies and gentlemen, look me in the eye. $40 billion. You drive into Boston and tell me if it isn't just as bad as it ever was. The only thing, you can get to the airport better. Now, on top of that, now this is just, again, the brain. You cannot fix stupid. Ron White. There's not a pill you can take. You can't go and have any kind of treatment. You know, they can fix a broken leg. They can fix your eyesight, put glasses. They can fix your hearing. They can take your appendix out. But you can't fix stupid. And we've got the same people voting for the same people, running the state the way this is run. And again, because the Republicans don't give any options because they're just as rotten too. Nice people, they just don't care. Anything to get elected. And that's why Thomas Jefferson has said, if you get 200 years out of any democracy or republic, you're lucky. And that's where we're gone. You people don't want to hear it, and they say, oh, we are gone. Now, on top of the 40 billion, they're doing road work.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not talking about retarring, but when you think the resurfacing of all those roads would have been included in 40 billion, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, no.
I mean, I dumped on Plymouth. Plymouth, again, is a disgrace. I'm sorry. How they handle the Samoset and the roads coming in here. A community, a business community that relies, like every community that's in a tourist area. Here's America's hometown, and they can't make great strides after last year. They can't change how the road work was being. They can't have people there under the lights at night working. They can't have supervisors watching these people like I did every single day, sitting on their duff, or one guy on a machine and the other two smoking a cigarette. And I'm a nasty SOB. And where's it come from? The unions. That's where it comes from. All the billions and billions of dollars feather the nest of the union construction workers. There is no fiscal responsibility. That's what Democratic Party leadership wants. They want to buy votes, and it's worked. I was a Democrat, for those that are new, a JFK Democrat, proud of it. I'm no Democrat anymore, and I don't know how people like me continue. Because they're Irish, I'm Irish. Because they're Italian, because they're Catholic, you have to vote Democrat. Because you're Jewish, you're going to vote Democrat. Because, of course, all the Republicans are Yankee, wealthy, greedy. It just cracks. There are more Democratic multimillionaires than Republicans today, but you won't read that in the press. To honestly think that you can't vote for a Republican because all they care about are the wealthy. And then you've got, especially in Massachusetts, how many multi-millionaires that are Democrats? Who's kidding who?
So while you're taking a sip,
go for it, Kenny.
I just go to this question naturally. We all heard about the Big Dig now because we're listening intently. We heard about the fiasco in the streets of Plymouth.
Yes.
And today there were detours everywhere.
Still.
Did you get stuck in traffic today on your way to Weymouth? Is that what brought this up?
Yes, I did. That's what I'm saying.
How long did you sit there?
15 or 20 minutes.
So you ended up being late for wherever you were going.
Oh, no, but that was not the point. You know, the point
I
was,
know it's not the point. It's just the frustration.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're still paying you. But again, if you're making plenty of money, thanks to the Democrats, you know, you're not going to change anything.
I was surprised you didn't, break into your wallet and get out your helicopter and fly over it. That was supposed to be a joke.
I know it was supposed to be a joke. But anyway, I mean, this again, from the sublime to the ridiculous, and that's where the press is, and that's where the Democratic leadership is. I mean, they cannot and they will not. Liberals will not take 2 and 2 and come up with 4. Liberals, it will always, well, it could be 3. It might be 5. That's why they love Bill Clinton. It depends on what is. They thought that was the most brilliant statement ever made by a politician. If that had been a Republican, he'd have been laughed out of the White House. It is just shameless. And that's why I want to read and why I can sleep at night. I do my part to try to confront the idiocy of today's America. Not for me, not for you, for those kids. I was at Verizon today. There was a young man named Will waiting on us. Clean cut, helped me with my phone, helped me looking up, my bill for some reason shot up. I found out what it was. I forgot I talked to my sister-in-law in London, and I forgot.
Oh, that'll do it all the time.
Yeah, and that was, the long overseas. But anyway, this was the nicest young man. I asked him, I said, are you married? Yeah, he said, we have a baby. I said, well, how you doing? They pay her all right? He said, well, okay. But he said, it's a struggle. That's who I speak for, I don't speak for people my age and younger who say they give a damn about their grandkids and then keep voting for people that are spendthrifts and keep giving them more money for what they do. That's hypocrisy. We're leaving our kids far worse off than our parents left us, and that's fact. And that's a responsibility for every single one of us.
Yes.
And I know one thing. I've screwed up in many a thing, but I haven't screwed up. As long as I'm able to breathe, and I'm on the radio, WXTK Saturdays, and I'm on this little show that we do, I'm going to keep spouting it. And I still believe what Ronald Reagan, who left the Democratic Party too, and was chastised by the Democrats, like I was by my big shot Democrat friends. And I use the same answer. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. It left me.
That's right. That's right. You've said that
many times. And here's what Cicero said in 196, which keeps it going. But what bothers me is it allows people to be complacent. We have people out there playing golf every single day. They're retired. They're having a hell of a time. And their grandkids are being left with this debt because when it comes to confronting overspending, I don't care whether it's in your personal type of business, when you've got teachers and police officers and firemen and all this kind of thing, and the town has to bone up and build new schools, new fire stations, new police stations, buy new equipment, and then those unions and the public employees get a raise, and on top of that, they complain about having to pay more in their health care, when those of us in the private sector in some cases have to pay all of it, not 25%. That's greed. And if you don't like it, tough, because it's the truth. And here's Cicero in the year 156 B.C. The evil implanted in man by nature spread so imperceptibly when the habit of wrongdoing is unchecked that he himself can set no limit to his shamelessness. I taught school for 13 years and saw it firsthand. Teachers don't like to hear it. I don't care. Police officers, I admire teachers. It is not how America was set up. Government was never supposed to be using up more tax dollars than could be generated by the private sector. That's called a democracy, a republic, where people earn money in their own labors, forming companies, hiring people, and then taxed, and those tax dollars are now distributed to those people working in the government. It is so bastardized today, it is breaking us. That's why you look at the states in this country, Illinois is one, California, the ones that are going broke and need bailing out, every single one of them is run by Democrats who use this whole sham. I keep browbeating about it because it's the truth. And I don't care if people don't want to hear it. It is the truth. These retirement funds in the state of Massachusetts are so underfunded, and in some cases not even funded, it's not even funny. If we ever have a major, I'll tell you, there was a lot of fear and should have been. And I'll tell you, government employees right now don't even know where their retirement comes from. You know, Elizabeth Warren and all those other nitwit liberals. Sorry, but that's what they are. She's so brilliant. She's a college professor at Harvard. She doesn't even know. She gets $360,000 a year when she was teaching. She doesn't even know where her retirement comes from. I'll bet you the Plymouth employees, they don't know where it comes from. They think it comes from the state or from the town of Plymouth. Oh, no, it doesn't. You know where it comes from.
It's money that's invested.
It comes from the investments, and you better damn well hope that ExxonMobil that you badmouth in front of class, or any of the utility companies, or IBM, you better hope they have a good year, because that's where your retirement comes from, you fruitcakes. And I'm saying it because people should know. We don't have the teachers telling kids that. They'd rather badmouth the country. Like the Pope comes in. You think the Pope worries about a paycheck? And he's bad-mouthing the wealthy America, that we're not doing enough. The finest country there has ever been on the face of this earth, even today, where it's floundering under the leadership of Democrats and under liberal principles. They are dismal failures. We're still the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest people, many of them liberals. This is not personal people. This is principles. Principles. Liberal principles are a failure. Look at the prisons. California, one of the most liberal states, they're now voting, I don't know how many millions of dollars for homeless people in California. How can that be, ladies and gentlemen? If their policies in California, why do we have so many homeless if the liberals and the Democrats are doing such a grand job? There aren't two Republicans, I don't think, in the House and the... Oh, by the way, here's one for you.
Just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody would care to answer those questions, they can call. 508-830-3971.
Give that one again, will you, Kenny?
508-830-3971. And one other thing, when you start calling people fruitcakes, please don't look at me.
Well, I'm only looking through the...
okay.
But I mean, you're not... You would believe this, but what's unbelievable is... I just talked about California. Now, this is all fact, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it doesn't... Of course, the people that the people who are still listening to me, of course, they understand.
Reruns.
Those who are appalled by what I say, they don't want to listen to conservative talk anyway. That's why we only have something like 37% of the people even listen to talk radio, because they don't want to hear anything. But listen to this. This is Senator Dianne Feinstein. I don't know how many years she's been in Congress. Again, politically correct, another woman. We need more women. We need more people of color. We need more gay people, and maybe if we get a few more Caitlyn Jenners, maybe we'll get one of them. I'm sure the liberals would think that was just wonderful. Here's a quote. Now, imagine a Republican saying this. You know, imagine one of the few Republican senators that we've had and Congresswoman. Dianne Feinstein, Los Angeles Times covers this. All vets are mentally ill in some way, and government should prevent them from owning firearms. You Democrat vets, how do you like that from one of your own? That's what she thinks. She's one of only 100 people that make laws in this country, and that's the statement she makes, representing California. Now, she really said this in a meeting in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and the quote below from the Los Angeles Times, no less, who's very liberal. This was the writer for the reporter for the Los Angeles Times. He says, Senator Feinstein insults all U.S. veterans as she flays about in a vain attempt to save her anti-firearms bill. See, she's submitted again, gun control, anti-firearms, which liberals love, of course, and the press loves it because it's controversial. And, of course, liberals love taking anything away from you, you know. That's another thing. They're not kind. They want to control you. Best way to control it is have power over you. I don't care if it's your beach sticker, your dump sticker. But you can't show any identification. You don't have to, I mean, when you vote. Because that, of course, that might catch some people that were voting illegally that would change laws. Anyway, here's the quote that comes also from the Los Angeles Times. Frankly, I don't know what it is about California, but we seem to have a strange urge to elect really obnoxious women to high office. I'm not bragging, you understand, but no other state, including Maine, even comes close. When it comes to sending left-wing dingbats to Washington, we're number one. There's no getting around the fact that the last time anyone saw the likes of Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, Maxine Waters, and Nancy Pelosi, they were stirring a cauldron when the curtain went up on the play Macbeth. Isn't that classic? Of course, most people don't know what Macbeth is, and our kids aren't taught Shakespeare because it's, you know, not relevant anymore in the minds of liberal teachers. The quote goes on, the four of them are like jackasses who happen to possess the gift of blab. You don't know if you should condemn them for their stupidity or simply marvel at their ability to form words. Will anything come of it? No. Will you see that on Chris Matthews? No. Will you see it on the rest of the liberal-based major media? No. By the way, Maxine Waters, do you remember her? One of the, she's a congresswoman, I believe. I don't believe she's a senator. She's the one that wanted us to send a ship to Mars to retrieve the flag that was left there by the space crew that landed on the moon. That's the truth. Maxine Waters, a member of Congress. But it's okay, right? She's a Democrat. You got to have Democrats. I mean, you don't care if they get a brain or not. And she's a woman of color, so that makes it even better. Just to go a little, to show you how other countries are operating, why I get so disgusted. Oh, by the way, first, I like Chinese food. I won't tell you. I go to 2 or 3 Chinese restaurants. I enjoy them. And I really enjoy the fortune cookies. Do you go to Chinese much, Kenny?
My favorite place.
Now, shall we mention them?
Yeah, we can mention them because we just can't tell anybody to go to them.
Well, okay.
But my favorite place is the China Pilgrim over on South Meadow Road.
That's where I had this Chinese food this time. I like Joe and the crew there.
Oh, he's a great guy.
But I like this place over here in this mall here. what's the name of it? Snow something?
Sushi Joy?
Sushi Joy, yeah. That's
They
very
have
nice.
good Japanese and Chinese food.
Yeah, they're not Chinese. They're Japanese.
Yeah, they have two menus in there, and I have a peanut allergy. And I go in there, and when I order my food, I tell them I have a peanut allergy, and then the waiter says to me, well, you can't eat this and you can't eat that. And it's really a great place.
Have you ever had an episode where you had peanuts unbeknownst to you in a restaurant or anything? And
I had episodes with my peanut allergy many, many times. It took about 3 years for the doctor to figure out why I was having these episodes. I'd pass out. I just totally pass out.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I thought I was sleeping.
It's serious, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I had this wonderful Chinese food, and Joe always gives me a lot of extra. He calls me the Cookie Monster because I love the fortune cookies. Here were two that I clipped out. I'm going to do this on the radio today, this Saturday. Men show their character in nothing more clearly than by what they think laughable. Think of how profound that is.
Very, very.
Somebody laughs at something where somebody's hurt or something, some other innocent, you better look at them, The other one that I like, that I try to identify a little with, is life is never more fun than when you're the underdog competing against the giants. So I had to pull that out.
Very good.
But now, speaking about Sushi Joy, that's right, it's Japanese. Forgive me. This was my next. Just look at this. Again, this is facts. And liberals and the Democrats don't really, they care about power, you see. They want to be in. They don't care how they get in. Mm-hmm. They want to get in. Now, does that mean I'm a Republican? No, I've said it before. I am absolutely independent, and I don't have use for politicians in general. I just don't. I can like them personally, but I've seen too much. Let's just keep it at that. I had friends in the Democratic Party, loved them personally, still do, but I could not disagree more with where they went. Again, not because they personally believed in it. In fact, they refuted their stances years later, but because it meant votes in their mind. There was no courage to go against the grain. Joe Moakley, that was, now they, named a building for him up there, that government building on the harbor. I forget how many years and how many consecutive terms, a Democrat, he was elected to, but he was pro-life his whole career. Did you ever read that once? Maybe it was in fine print, because he was a Democrat.
I remember reading it once.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they gave him a free pass.
Yeah, they did.
Because he was a Democrat.
I like Joe.
Oh, Joe was a good man.
He was a nice guy.
But, that's the kind of stuff that I despise, about the Globe and about the press. All right. Now, then, let's get to Japan. Just listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. We got time. Now, I'm old enough. See, the trouble is the young people don't know it. And, of course, now we have Japanese cars and all. But remember you're around my vintage. But anyway, when I was young, made in Japan was laughable. It was like rubber toys, right? It was not
hysterical.
Something you bought. It was not considered to be high quality. Now, of course, they were brilliant. We didn't know that, but this was just them getting into the market. This was after the war.
Right.
In just 10 years, Hiroshima returned to what it was. Now, I just told you about all the negative press that ExxonMobil and millions of dollars, which gets passed on to you and me, and yet the environmentalist wackos, they thought it was great because they get grant money so that it never happens again, even though it was an accident.
Right.
Doesn't matter to them. Doesn't matter to government. Just like that river out there in what is it, Aguila or something in West. You heard me talk
the
about
gold mine that they released.
Well, it was the EPA that caused the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
And there's people that died.
Right.
That disappeared off the screen in 2 seconds. Anyway, so we see that horrible dropping of the atomic bomb. We have people that live in this country now. We have people that are college professors that badmouth the United States of America for dropping that bomb. That's the element that is now controlling too much of government policy. And that's because these people now are in they're grandchildren of people, their own grandfathers, I'm sure many of whom either were wounded or died keeping this country safe from the Japanese. There's all sorts of documented filming, documented written words, documented interviews of the horrible treatment of our American soldiers when captured by the Japanese. Beheadings, all the same thing we're hearing from ISIS now.
ISIS, right.
Hadn't heard a word from the Pope, though, have you? Haven't heard anything from the President about ISIS and all the beheading, but we'll hear about global warming, though, ladies and gentlemen. It's insane. Once again, continued insanity. Well, in Hiroshima, of course, Hiroshima was one of the 2 cities that an atomic bomb was dropped on. The only reason they dropped the second one, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, which is conveniently forgotten by the liberals and by the historic the rewriters of history, was because the emperor and others made a statement that was still not going to stop them from continuing the war. They dropped a second one. Harry Truman, God love him, one of the great Democrats.
That was Nagasaki.
Yep, Nagasaki was the second.
Right.
But now to show you about nature, this goes back to what I mentioned in a small way locally over in Buzzards Bay. And then I also mentioned the island of Bikini that recovered in 25 years. And I'm sure it was recovered sooner than that, but they waited a long time. Hiroshima returned to what it was, economically vibrant, before the fall of the atomic bomb. 1. Japan prevents the use of mobile phones in trains, restaurants, and indoors. Wouldn't that be nice, Kenny? Oh, not in America. You got to have them. They got them up their fanny in the restrooms. They can't go anywhere. You can't take 2 breaths. I just left the gym over here in Plymouth Fitness, and kids are having swimming lessons, and their parents are there in the pool diddling with their phone. For 1st to 6th primary year, Japanese students must learn ethics in dealing with people. In other words, from the 1st grade to the 6th primary year, Japanese students must learn ethics in dealing with people. That doesn't fit the NEA and our teachers' union's idea of important. Learn ethics when you're a little kid? No. Let them call names to the teacher and let them slap their classmates and all that, Even though one of the richest peoples in the world, the Japanese do not have servants. The parents are responsible for the house and children. There's no examination from the 1st to the 3rd primary level because the goal of education is to instill concept and character building. Remember, that's just to the 3rd primary level. American liberals in education, some of them didn't want grades in the first place, they think that's a deterrent. They're just laughable. If you go to a buffet restaurant in Japan, you will notice people only eat as much as they need without any waste because food must not be wasted. The rate of delayed trains in Japan is about 7 seconds per year. The Japanese appreciate the value of time and are very punctual to minutes and seconds. They're also that way in their airlines. How are we doing in that, ladies and gentlemen? Children in schools brush their teeth, sterilize, and clean their teeth after a meal at school, teaching them to maintain their health from an early age. Japanese students take half an hour to finish their meals to ensure the proper digestion, because these students are the future of Japan. Imagine if we ever had slowed the kids down and made them eat what was good for them. Imagine the liberals, oh, you can't do that. We'd rather worship fat people. Worship your fat. That's liberal concepts, right? Oh, because you hurt their feelings if you tell somebody that, hey, listen, you're a little kid, this is bad for your health. The Japanese focus on maintaining their culture. Therefore, 1, no political leader or a prime minister from an Islamic nation has visited Japan, not the Ayatollah of Iran, the king of Saudi Arabia, or even a Saudi prince. None of them have been allowed to come to Japan. Japan is a country keeping Islam at bay by putting strict restrictions on Islam and all Muslims. How come we don't read about that? How come we don't badmouth the Japanese? 1, Japan is the only nation that does not give citizenship to Muslims. 2, in Japan, permanent residency is not given to Muslims. 3, there's a strong ban on the propagation of Islam in Japan. 4, in the University of Japan, Arabic or any Islamic language is not taught. 5, one cannot import a Quran published in the Arabic language. 6, according to data published by the Japanese government, it has given temporary residency to only 2 lakhs Muslims who must follow the Japanese law of the land. These Muslims should speak Japanese and carry their religious rituals in their homes. Japan is the only country in the world that has a negligible number of embassies in Islamic countries. Muslims residing in Japan are the employees of foreign companies. Even today, visas are not granted to Muslim doctors, engineers, or managers sent by foreign companies. In the majority of companies, it is stated in their regulations that no Muslim should apply for a job. 11, the Japanese government is of the opinion that Muslims are fundamentalists, and even in the era of globalization, they are not willing to change their Muslim laws. Muslims cannot even rent a house in Japan. If anyone comes to know that his neighbor is a Muslim, then the whole neighborhood stays alert. No one can start an Islamic cell or Arabic madrasa in Japan. There's no Sharia law in Japan. If a Japanese woman marries a Muslim, she is considered an outcast forever. According to Mr. Yumiko Yagi, professor of Arab Islamic Studies at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, there is a mind frame in Japan that Islam is a very narrow-minded religion and one should stay away from it. The Japanese might have lost the war, but they are in charge of their own country. There are no bombs going off in crowded business centers. There are no honor killings, quote, or killings of innocent children or anyone else. No airplanes crashing into Tokyo, I might add. Now, I know that's strict, and I know it's severe, and I know the feel-gooders don't like it. But let's look at the options that we are following. Now, here we have a president. Here's something. The word diminitude, D-H-I-M-M-I-T-U-D-E, I've never heard of it. You find it. It's in the new health care bill. So what does it mean? Obama used it in the health care bill. Now, isn't this interesting? It also included in the health care law. Here's what it is. Type it into Google and start reading. It's pretty interesting. It's on page 107 of the health care bill. Look it up on Google, and there it is. It exists. It's a real world. Diminitude is the Muslim system of controlling non-Muslim populations conquered through jihad. Again, a holy war. Specifically, it is the taxing of non-Muslims in exchange for tolerating their presence and as a coercive means of converting conquered remnants to Islam. Obamacare allows the establishment of dimitude. I call it dimwitude. It's spelled, look it up, D-H-I-M-M-I-T-U-D-E. And Sharia Muslim diktat in the United States. Obamacare allows the establishment of this, which, remember, is non-taxing, basically, of Muslims. Muslims are specifically exempted from the government mandate to purchase insurance and also from the penalty tax for being uninsured. Islam considers insurance to be gambling, risk-taking, and usury, and is thus banned. Muslims are specifically granted exemptions based on this. How many Democrats do you suppose know this? You know that, Kenny? Did you know that the Muslims in this country now are exempted from having to be insured in this country?
I kind of surmised that when I heard that we were going to be giving them all kinds of benefits when they come into the country.
But where's the press to say, wait a minute, American citizens?
Well, you just did that for everybody. Donnie.
What?
Very important. You got 2 minutes.
Yes.
Can we talk about the book real fast?
Oh, my book. Well, what do you want to know about my book? My book is out.
The book is out. It's available at Amazon.
Yes.
And Amazon.com.
Well, now it may not be yet because we're still setting that up, but it is going to be available. By the way, you were all invited if you know Baxter's
Let me put the graphics up.
Yes. Baxter's Boathouse in Hyannis on October 8th, which is pretty soon. We are going to be having a book. What do they call them? No, it's not a. Well, it's a book signing. I'll sign one for you, but it's a launch, a book launch. Why do I have trouble with that since I owned a launch at one time? But anyway, at Baxter's on Thursday, which means we won't be doing the show, from 4 to 6, and then the following day at the Flying Bridge Restaurant, which I once owned. And the reason I'm having the first one at Baxter's is I was the first piano player ever to play at that wonderful waterfront bar and restaurant. If you haven't been there, you've really missed something. It's at the end of Pleasant Street in Hyannis. It's beautiful. It's right smack on the water. The food is delicious. And as I say, the family's dear, very dear to me. And the other, as I said, the Flying Bridge, of course, I owned in the 80s for 9 years. And so I thought we'd have one there for those on the Falmouth side. And you will be able to go online and purchase the book. And we also now have Pal Pay, which will be activated within the week so that you can pay, give your credit card to this to the number. And the my email, my Gmail now, which is the business, is Donald McKeag at gmail.com. So thank you, Kenny. I hope you like the book. It's the ups and downs of yours truly. And there's all sorts of areas. There's Weymouth, there's Palm Beach, Florida, there's Aspen, Colorado, there's no Plymouth, but there's Carver, where I once owned the Cranebrook restaurant. And but anyway, so once again, you've been either treated to or subjected to a 1-hour rant by Donald P. McKeag in the hopes that I am educating and helping you who are as frustrated as I try to understand, even though it's just to me incomprehensible, why we're in this position when we're so great, and I mean people. We have the greatest people. Liberal, conservative, nothing, all alike, all great people. And I'm sorry I get so nasty sometimes, but I'm just so frustrated. I'm not angry. I just, real nice people aren't thinking straight. So good night and God bless. We'll see you next week. John McKeag signing off. Thank you, Kenny Bukes.